back to another episode. So yes, this week we are talking about the PS2. No, I know, the PS2. We're talking about the PS2, or whatever you want to call it. Yeah, I'm borrowing my wife's boxed PS2 Slim with all of the dust. Lovely. But yeah, I wanted to just sort of come on here and talk about my not necessarily complicated relationship with the PS2, but more my history with it and why, unlike a lot of people, it's not one of my go-to consoles. In fact, I don't think I've plugged in a PS2 in about 10 years. Well, probably less. I still buy for it every now and then. I recently picked up... What did I recently pick up? Shifters, I think. Picked up Shifters for the PS2, which is quite exciting. But I figured I'd come on here and just sort of explain my history with the PS2, sort of as a celebration of the fact that this thing is 25 years old. Very old. Very old. Very old system. Super old system. Getting there. Xbox and GameCube will be 25 next year, which is a little bit crazy, especially seeing as they're cycling the toilet. The GameCube is still great. But yes, so PS2. Now, unlike everyone I knew at primary school, because I'm not that old, no, everyone at primary school, everyone at sort of secondary school prior to the advent of the 360 had a PS2. They had one of these things, sat in their house, whirring away, had a DVD player built into it, which was, let's be honest, the main draw for a lot of people. It was an extremely cheap DVD player. Had it built in. Very cool. This didn't get it until much later, by which point the damage was already done. This sold, I don't know, 24 million. The GameCube sold just under that. And the PS2 blew them all out of the water, including our precious Dreamcast, with over 150 million sold. Probably more. Still remains the single best-selling system of all time, even over the Switch, which I think actually one of the best-selling of all time. I think the DS outsold the PS2 by a good margin, but could be wrong. So I didn't have one. My friends did. I had a GameCube. So when I had a GameCube to begin with, that was my first major console outside of the Game Boy Color. I had a Game Boy Color and I had an SP, and I was like, oh, these are cool, but GameCube. Yes. Like a GameCube for Christmas. Thank you very much. Then I fell in love with Halo, which led to the original Xbox. So by that point, I was like, I've got two consoles, I've got a lot of toys, I've got a lot of TV. I don't really need this in my life. So I sort of sat on it. I sort of went, yeah, PS2's there. PS2 exists. PS2 is very popular with literally everyone else, which is probably why I don't like it so much, or as much at the time. Cut to 2010. So 2010 rolls around, and I've talked about 2010. 2010 was an excellent year for video games. Absolutely fucking amazing. I got so many good games that year. Enslaved, Halo Reach, Gears of War 3 came out the following year, but still, sort of around that time, all this really good shit was coming out for the 360, and indeed the PS3 and whatever. But I get to Christmas, and I go, it's Christmas. Cool, like Christmas. Christmas is good. Christmas is always nice. Oh, Christmas money. I had Christmas money. So I'd been sort of looking at Killer 7 on the GameCube. And I was like, it's 28 quid on Amazon. At the time where you could find good shit on Amazon, but £28 on Amazon for Killer 7 for the GameCube. Now, do I get that? Do I get that? It might be a game I really hate. I don't really know. It is a game I like, but I'm not fond of. It's a fucking pain in the ass. But that's mostly just its controls. So I thought I could get the GameCube version. I may not like it. I don't really have a lot of money. Or I could buy a PS2, because I'd seen this exact copy in the local game shop in my hometown for £2. £2. The PS2 was 20. No brainer, really. So yeah, I bought that, Deadly Premonition, and I had a whole bunch of PS2 games. I bought a bunch of PS2 games. I've only really got 5 here that I'm going to talk about because they were the ones I was immediately looking at. Actually, I don't think you were one of them. What was the other one that was one of them? I got rid of it. Okay, well, we'll talk about this one anyway. But yeah. So I went, right, okay. In fact, it might just be these 4. I think these 4 were the ones I've got. The other one was Giant Citizen Kabuto, which is my favourite game on the PS2 because it's fucking weird and because it's support of a pretty good PC game. There you go. That summed up everything you need to know about that particular game. So I'll just shove that back on its shelf where it belongs. So, Killer 7. Yes. So I was walking home. I had a big fat PS2. A big fat silver PS2 for 20 quid. I had I think it was about 7 games. I couldn't tell you what those 7 games were, but had 7 games. And I was... Oh no, actually, there's the other one. No, it was 5 games. It was 5 games. It was very stupid. So yeah, it was 5 games. The other one being Quake 3 Revolution, but we'll get to that. So yes, I was walking home. And I was like, bloody hell, this thing's fucking heavy. So I was halfway through like a park, and I was like, Mum, you can pick me up. And she did, which was nice. But yeah, so I get home, I set this thing up, and I play Killer 7, and I'm like, oh god, okay, maybe not. Good, I didn't spend 28 quid on this. £28. I did end up buying it later for the GameCube for about 30. So it's only really a £2 increase in 15 years, so it's not actually that bad. I think I got it last year, so 14 years. 14 years and only a £2 increase. Okay, cool. But yeah, so Killer 7 was a bit of a downer. And yes, it was an 18. I was 18 at the time, which was heavily depressing, but here we are. Then I was like, right, I've got this PS2. What other games are for it? And I picked up Quake 3, Time Splitters, Killzone, and Fire Warrior. So, as you can tell, big shooter fan. Big shooter fan. Big shooter fan. Bearing in mind that same year I'd gotten a PS3, which my brother then proceeded to steal for the next 15 years, and then he gave it back. So, thanks. Haven't used it yet. Need to plug in the PS3 at some point. But yeah, so I get home and I've got all these games and I'm playing through them and I'm like, yeah, this is pretty cool. It's pretty cool. It's a new system. Games are cheap as fuck. Neat. Then it fell off. The appeal of having a PS2 fell off because, I'll be honest with you, it was fucking ugly. Like the graphics in general were considerably uglier than the GameCube or the original Xbox. So I was like, yeah, whatever. I mean, I think I bought Battlefront 1 and 2 on here as well. Or I bought 2, certainly, because 2 was like, back in the day, it was like 35 quid on the original Xbox. So I was like, I'm not fucking paying that. Now it's cheap as fuck. But, which is nice change of pace. But, yeah. I bought the PS2 version, and it was awful. And like crap compared to the original Xbox. I was just kind of underwhelmed. with the PS2. I was like, yeah, it's not very good. It's just, bearing in mind I was 18 years old. I wasn't the brightest bulb in the shed. When it came to my tastes, they become more refined as we go on. But I found that the PS2 in particular, it didn't really tickle the same itch that the original Xbox, the GameCube, or hell, a couple of years later. Well, no, even not then. I mean, I've got a real love of 6th gen gaming. Absolutely adore it. I love GameCube. I love Xbox. And here's the kick: I've started to really appreciate the Dreamcast. So I bought the Dreamcast in 2012, So a couple of years after the PS2. PS2 was just kind of there. It sat on my shelf. I played it here and there, not a whole lot. I've bought a lot of games for it as we've gone on. Tribes Aerial Assault, Panzer Dragoon, Duel Masters, Pac-Man World Racing, or Pac-Man Rally, Lego Racers 2, that sort of shit. Games that I was interested in, games that maybe have released on the Dreamcast that I didn't like necessarily. So, for example, Quake 3. I do own Quake 3 on there. Runs like ass. So I have it on PS2 where it runs pretty well. Same with Unreal Tournament. I don't own it on Dreamcast anymore. I've got it on PS2. But as the years have gone on, I've gone... I don't know. I haven't played it. I simply have not played the PS2. And I'm sat here going, is it time? Because last year was very, very Dreamcast. In fact, it was this year. That was this year. 2025. 2025 was the year of the Dreamcast and the GameCube for me. And the original Xbox. Basically, I've collected for everything but the PS2. So, awkward. Here's a kicker. I went through CEX and I went from everything from about, I think it was 20 quid through to 40 and beyond. I went sort of from there down to the £20 mark, and there's a lot of really good shit in there. I've got like 30 games on a list where I'm like, I'd play that. Hell, I don't own Ratchet and Clank 1. I don't own the first Ratchet and Clank for the PS2. Why? Why the fuck don't I own the first Ratchet and Clank for the PS2? It's baffling. I don't own I own Jak 3, but I don't own Jak and Daxter 1 and 2. I own Jak and Daxter X, and I think there's The Lost Frontier as well, but I didn't play those games. I didn't play Sly Cooper, and I'm sat here going, there's all this shit on here I haven't played. I've played bits of Ratchet and Clank here and there. Definitely wanted to get 2. That was a big one for me to get for the PS2. So I've been sort of building up to getting this thing for a long time, and Killer 7 was really sort of the firing gun, sort of the start gun to get it. So it's been nice, but when I hear things like, oh, Fire Warrior is the Halo equivalent on PS2, and I play it, and I'm like, it really isn't. It really isn't. Don't get me wrong. I like Fire Warrior to a degree, but it's not amazing. Same with Killzone. I think Killzone is okay. It's just... Hell, of these 5, the game I liked the most was Time Splitters, because I played the first one. I played the third one. And then I went back and I played 2, and I was like, yeah, two's okay. But I played 1, and I was like, this is a lot of fun. It's a lot of arcade running and gunning, and that's really cool. But I haven't found much on the PS2 yet that I'm particularly interested in. I'm not a big RPG guy. I'm really, really not a big RPG guy, so I'm not going to be looking at any of that. That's a whole massive genre that I'm just not touching. It doesn't have anything like, say, Morrowind. It doesn't have a decent Halo equivalent as far as I've played. I mean, Killzone and Fire Warrior are very corridory. Maybe that's just what I've played, but they're very, very corridory. There's no Fable. There's a lot of stuff on there that I really like. There's a lot of stuff on the GameCube that's extraordinarily niche. I think I need to dive into this more. Because there are games on here I've gone, okay, I didn't know there was a Kessin 3 until yesterday. So clearly it's a library, an extensive library with 10,000 games in it that I should probably go looking through. And I think next year, 2026, will be a good time to do that. So we're coming up to Christmas. I've got some Switch 2 stuff coming up. I'm going to be playing that. Come on. Even though I haven't played Switch 2 since July. I don't want that to be... I am actually trading in a whole... I'm clearing out the collection bit by bit. I've just done the PS2, actually. It's a giant fucking stack. Come here. Giant fucking stack of just mostly crap. Or duplicates. Like, I've got Angel of Darkness. I've got Cell Damage Overdrive, Army Men RTS, because I picked that on GameCube earlier this year. Just a lot of stuff that I picked up in charity shops or I don't particularly care about. So that'll be going. That'll be gone. I'll keep Cell Damage. Why not? There we go. I'll keep Cell Damage, but the rest of it can... whatever. But yeah. I need to maybe dive into this, and I think maybe at the weekend, when I get rid of all this stuff, that would be a good time to do it, because I should have the budget. Hopefully to get a decent PS2 again, because I've got a Slim, much like my wife's. My wife has a Slim. I bought that Slim from a charity shop for 15 quid, and then I went, I don't need the fat one anymore, so I got rid of the fat one. And it turns out that Slim doesn't work very well, so yay. So I'm going to get a big fat one. Maybe on the weekend, but we'll see. But yeah. So, happy birthday, PS2. Sorry I haven't indulged in you maybe as much as I should have done, especially seeing as I'm a big fan of 6th generation, and PS2 was sort of the definition of that. But, yeah. I think you and I need to have a long, serious chat about what you can bring to the table and what I can play on it. But yeah, anyway, that is me signing off for another week. I'm not sure what we're going to do next week. I am planning a games room tour, because there have been some pretty sweeping changes since I last did it. Mostly with the Nintendo corner. There's a lot changed there. There's quite a fair bit changed in the middle. There's some stuff changed here. And I am expecting a Steam Deck today, so maybe I'll do a review of that in a couple of weeks as well. But until then, guys, thank you very much for joining me. It's been a pleasure, and I will see you next time.